A question that I am often asked is how much is land without planning permission worth? And the reason for this is that if you've listened to some of my YouTube videos or been on any of our trainings, you will know that we talk about when you want to find a development site, you need to be looking for off-market land. And therefore this off-market land is unlikely to have planning permission in place. And we talk about also the build profit, which is if you buy land itself with full planning permission in place and produces the significant build profit that you need in order to satisfy lenders and obviously the growth of your property development business, then that needs to be at least 25% of gross development value. But if you're buying it without planning permission in place, which is most likely to be the situation, how much is that land worth and how much should you pay for it? So in this video we're going to talk about that, but before we do that, just in case and for clarity, we'll just talk about buying land with full planning permission and how that stacks up and how we make that stack up. So we'll look at a viable proposition and a situation that's not viable. So let's assume for the sake of argument that we have a site, the gross development value is 1.6 million. Gross development value just means the combination of buildings that are on that site. Once completed, what would they sell for? So we'll assume in this situation we've got 4 houses at 400,000, which would give us 1.6 million. Then the first thing that we take off is the profit, and that should be 25% of gross development value, being essentially what we call the build profit. Then the next thing what we're going to do is we then take off our costs, and in this situation we're just going to assume it's £1 million for the ease of numbers. And then the next thing is that then establishes what that land is worth with full planning permission in place. So let's just look at a situation which is what you're generally going to find when you look for land that's on the market. So we'll just take the same figures, however we're going to inflate the costs a little bit for this example here of 1.24 million now instead of 1 million, and what we find is that we have a negative land value of £40,000. Now clearly nobody's going to give you money to take off their land, nor are they going to give it to you for nothing. So all of that amount needs to come off the profit plus what you actually would pay for land, and often in a situation like that they're probably even going to ask you for more. So you might typically find that even in the viable situation with the full planning permission in place, they're probably looking for a figure of something like 450 to 500,000, which completely throws everything off kilter. So that's the situation when we talk about build profit. Now when we actually source land that's not on the market, we want to first of all establish what its current value is, because that's the baseline, that's the asset that's owned by the landowner. We have established how much it's worth with full planning, so we need to know what that margin is between it, because it's that margin in between that you are going to share with the landowner for taking their asset, enhancing its value by putting through planning permission, using your expertise, which is either you already have or you acquire through training programs like we offer, and you're able to then take a land uplift profit. And the reason that that's really important is you'll be aware that even with the best will and research, you cannot guarantee that you will achieve planning permission. So you need to be able to mitigate that cost, and you mitigate it across several developments. So you need to have that land uplift profit. We'll get back to the video in just a moment. If you're really serious about creating a property development business, then I would suggest that the next logical step for you would be to get a copy of my book, You a Property Developer. Simply go to the website of the same name, youapropertydeveloper.com. I'm going to cover the cost of the book. All I'm going to ask is that you contribute to the cost of the postage and packaging. Head over to youapropertydeveloper.com and pick up a copy now. Now there's a lot of estate agents who would think that you should you shouldn't actually tap into that potential, and they will often offer land that doesn't have planning permission almost at the price as if it did have planning permission. So there's two ways to value that. If we look at agricultural land at the one extreme of land, you're typically talking about between £5,000 to £15,000 an acre, depending on which part of the country that you live in. The sort of land that you are going to develop is probably not going to be agricultural land. That tends to be a different type of land. It can be developed, but it's a much longer term strategy of 10 to 15 years, and we call that strategic land. So what you are looking for is probably something that's within the development envelope which you can achieve planning. So in other words, the development envelope is where your local authority has said, we will allow building within this. Of course, it needs to be designated in the right type of land, so it can't be commercial land. It needs to be zoned for residential. So we've got a piece of land. It's inherently going to be more valuable than agricultural land because it has this greater potential. And so therefore, if you look at it in two different ways, imagine that piece of land came up at auction, didn't have any permissions in place, and you were to buy it. You want to be able to buy it at a price where if you fail to get planning permission on it, because this is a highly risky proposition, if you fail to get planning permission on it, you'll be able to put it back into the auction and pretty much realize the money that you paid for it. Maybe not quite all of it, but if you could at least realize about 90% of it, then that's far better than having land that has got no real value to do what you want it to do. The second way is to take the value with full planning permission in place, and then take the cost of your planning and work out a multiple of that as part of your risk factor. So we generally recommend that you should at least take the cost of planning. Let's say it was £10,000 for a property. Let's say the land with full planning permission was £100,000. So let's say that the cost of gaining that planning, this is probably for a single build, is that you then multiply that cost of planning, £10,000, multiply that by 50,000. You take that 50,000 off the price if it achieves planning of 100,000. So therefore, the amount that you would pay to the landowner would be 50,000. That piece of land to the landowner is probably worth, I would suspect, because it's probably a fairly small parcel of land, somewhere around about £10,000. In other words, again, if that piece of land came up and it was enough for one house in an auction where there's no guarantee of planning, you would probably pay somewhere around about 10,000 for that, because you know you could put it back into the auction and you would be able to get permission. You would be able to realise the funds. So essentially, what you are doing is taking the landowner's asset and adding £40,000 onto it, and of course these are just round numbers. Could be a completely different scenario, but you're taking that £40,000 for no work on their part, no risk on their part, and you're essentially handing it to them. So it's a very good deal for the landowner. It's also a good deal for you because you're mitigating your risk, because now you've got £40,000 yourself, which you can then risk on another development that might not gain you planning permission. And so you've mitigated your risk and you've protected at all costs your build profit. So I hope you found that useful. If you'd like to perhaps take the next logical step and you're serious about property development, then we do run a 4-hour training. It's online, which you can join us. It is free, however, because we want only serious people on there, we do charge a £99 fully refundable deposit. The condition is that you turn up and you are there for the 4 hours that we run this with your camera on, and that you engage with us. So that's you'll find full details about that, and when the next one's coming up at propertydevelopmentuk.com. That's propertydevelopmentuk.com, and you can come and join us on that. Again, we only want serious people because we do put a lot of effort into these, and we'll show you how we find land off market. We may even find land in your area off market, and then we'll show you how we fund these deals. It's not just about securing the funding, but understanding what the funders are looking for and how you can raise private investors in order to help you build out that site and acquire the land. So if that interests you, again, go to propertydevelopmentuk.com, and you'll find full details there. If you like this video, then please give us a like this channel, make sure you subscribe, and there's plenty of videos here. There's over 300. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you on the next video. Take care. Bye bye.